You've all heard of comfort food, the kind of food you like to eat regardless of its nutritional value, but it just makes you feel good. Did you know movies operate the same way? That's right, we're going to talk about the movies that we like regardless of critical praise, box office totals, and overall audience reception. These are the movies we love for being what they are, why they are, and how they are. These are our comfort flicks.
There's no law and no water. The odds of survival are 1,000 to 1. And that's just the way she likes it.
Feeling a little inadequate?
Lori Petty, Tank Girl.
What's it like knowing you're about to die?
You don't miss!
This one came out and was pretty much, didn't even make the splash that it should have made. It just kind of disappeared.
Well, it was
almost.
in '94, and if you weren't True Lies or Forrest Gump, you really didn't make a splash. I don't feel that this film was ever meant to be Batman or Superman, which is the only other two movies you can compare it to. It was just they wanted to do it. That was it. They actually just wanted to make this movie. They wanted to make Tank Girl into a film, and they had some great ideas. The studios thought easy money.
And it's especially odd because this comic was not even like a widely known comic.
No, I don't think anyone even knew it was a comic,
Yeah.
and even though it has comic aspects literally in the film, they still wouldn't know it's a comic.
Yeah. And around this point, a lot of indie comics were getting feature film treatments. This was 94. This was around the same time The Crow was getting made. Heck, people don't know this, but even Time Cop was a comic book.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, it was.
Not one that we cared about.
Yeah.
But and also, all these were like rated R, like aesthetic films that would not appeal to everyone. So, I mean, I'm just going to throw down. Tank Girl's awesome.
It is.
But if you look into the history about the film, there's a big fat X on it as to why is it. Well, even The Crow had problems aside from
the obvious problem,
like production issues. Tank Girl had a similar problem except different, and that was you're selling remember the only other female-led superhero movie prior to this was Supergirl. That was set up to fail. That was set up.
That one and Red Sonja. Oh dear.
Oh yeah, Red Sonja.
Yeah, let's not forget about Red Sonja.
They always kind of set them up to fail. And Tank Girl, same situations. They bought it. They're like, oh yeah, we want to buy this. And then the second they started making the movie based on the comic that they bought the rights to, they started destroying. There's a scene that was cut. You kind of sense did happen, which was she had sex with.
With Booga.
But there was an actual post-moment scene with a fully nude version of him showing just how in doubt he is.
Yeah.
So they wanted it in the movie. Now imagine selling a movie going, yeah, this main character, she has sex with a kangaroo dude, and you're gonna see all of them.
You're gonna see all of it.
That's gonna get people at least curious. They'll be like, well, I kind of feel like I should see this just to see that. Not necessarily is that a good thing or bad, but it's more just hey, you want to see this.
This is pretty much another prime example of the patriarchy, pretty much sabotaging something from the dead beginning. And it's really a damn shame because when films where you can definitely tell the filmmaker fought for their vision and the fact that the studio sabotaged it pretty much as soon as the camera stopped rolling,
Well, they were sabotaging it during the camera.
Yeah, though they kept fighting the director. They kept asking her like all these logistical questions, trying to make sense of the chaos of Tank Girl.
Did you know what you're buying?
Exactly. I'm betting they probably just looked at a lot of the artwork, the stellar artwork by Jamie Hewlett and Alan Martin in their fantastic comic book, and they just based it entirely on that. They never actually stopped to take a look inside this book and realize that this book is pure anarchy.
It's meant to be nuts. It's meant to be over-the-top silliness. I think someone described Tank Girl as a living Looney Tune. Don't start deconstructing it. Don't start asking questions because you have human crossbred kangaroo men. They learned religion.
They're not worries of virtue, thank God.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, Malcolm McDowell chewing the scenery like we love it when he does.
Stepping on glass just
to do it because it's evil. It's all over the top. It's silly, but that's the point.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she changes her hair and her clothes in every other scene. Yes.
Why? Because
it's
Tank
funny.
Girl. And it's Tank Girl.
And she's got probably some of the best comebacks to everything. Yeah. Everything she says is a great comeback.
How much did they pay you to spy on us?
$2.15.
Even
and
when
apparently
she's-
it was all improv. Most of it was improv.
Yeah.
Like, that's even better.
Lori Petty was our 90s. She was a 90s icon around that time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, of course, Point Break was a big one for her. I mean, for me,
League of
Their Own. She was not the first choice for the role. Apparently, a English actress.
Some unknown person. They will never name this person.
They'll never name this person. But,
I'm curious.
But this actress refused to shave her head, and I'm like, well, did you know what you were auditioning for?
No, she wanted to use a ball cap. I'm like, oh, honey, no.
No. Whereas Lori Petty.
I've seen amazing things with ball caps, but not with this movie.
Lori Petty was game for the whole thing, and she's game all throughout the entire movie, and tailor-made for this
was
role.
Tank
Yeah.
Tank Girl if there was no apocalypse yet.
The only con I had to the movie is that honestly they gave it way too much plot because again the comic is just
It's not even that much of a plot. I would say by 2 issues, and it's not even issues, I'm really nitpicking here, is I love Jet Girl's jet when she paints it up. There's a whole sequence where they paint up they pimp their rides. I love her ride. And then they literally have to change it right back to the original version to sneak in. I'm like, I didn't even get to see it fly that much. Like,
Yeah.
oh, come on.
the first time she gets a chance to have it fly, it malfunctions on her, and it's like, oh,
Yeah,
come
like,
on.
all right. I mean, the tank got play, so that's
Yeah, Tank got
and
play.
Subgirl got like. I didn't even know that was Subgirl until it was identified after the fact. Like
Yeah,
after I watched the
we
film,
had
I was like, "That's Sub." Okay.
All right.
Apparently, that's another thing that they wanted to do was Subgirl was going to come at the very end with the sub and like help out and save them.
Yeah.
It was cut. That was
Yeah.
supposed to be Courtney Love, but the whole Kurt Cobain thing happened, so.
Yeah, that kind of took priority.
Yeah, it was a bit of a
Kind of took priority over it. Courtney Love did have some say in the music. The
And you
score,
can tell.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because it's great.
The soundtrack is probably one of the best soundtracks I'd say of the 90s, probably one of the best soundtracks, right next to The Crow.
The 90s really gave us a lot of indie comic rated R films.
Oh, yeah.
The Crow, Tank Girl, which I don't think really should have been rated R, really is PG.
Yeah, very tame. Judge Dredd. Yeah. I actually think another reason why they optioned, apart from probably how easier it was to option the indie comic scene, I think studios, because, of course, the major thing that was happening in the 90s film scene was the independent film movement.
Yeah.
And a lot of movies that were banking were these very edgy, very anti-establishment films.
Especially in the early 90s.
Especially around that time.
Reservoir
And
Dogs.
yeah, Res Dogs, Pulp Fiction, El Mariachi, Desperado, like these new innovative filmmakers who were doing a lot of really grungy stuff. And the studios wanted to try and show that they had some kind of indie cred. So they wanted to try to option these properties that seemed like it would match the sensibilities of what they would need in order to stay relevant.
It's kind of funny to think maybe the studios just didn't know what they were looking for. Like, they didn't know their audiences.
Yeah.
What does the audience want? Because you don't technically know all the time. You can test them out. Well, actually, one thing in Tank Girl, they did a test audience, and the audience loved this one scene where she's in the cooler, I guess.
Yeah, they have her freezing her.
And-
It's during the whole montage of them torturing her.
Yeah, and she apparently it was hilarious. There was some great lines. Blah 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 blah. So most popular and well received by audience. What's the studio do? Oh, she doesn't look pretty. Cut it out. Cut
Because-
it down because she doesn't look good.
Because she's been in a freezer for
Yeah, like
overnight, and so she's
And,
not...
and she looked pretty good for being in a freezer.
Yeah,
overnight,
exactly.
To be honest, but the audience loved it, and the studio went against what the audience loved. And it's like you think the studio would be like, oh no, wait, they like it. We should do more like that.
No effort to advertise this sucker.
I do remember seeing the trailer once.
And the trailer doesn't do it justice at
Okay,
all.
no, I distinctly remember this because the trailer was so off-putting. Now, I was only like 13 at the time. I don't know what movie I was seeing. So I'm watching, I remember it was a tank and her just randomly running around. At one point, she like burps right in front of the camera, like face up into the camera. And some old people in the audience were like, ugh, what the hell is this? Just trying to sabotage this movie.
And fortunately, the director, Rachel Talalay, has in retrospect said that this is that movie that was not meant for everybody.
Oh,
yeah. And I'm happy that she kind of stuck to her convictions to try to make sure that movie stayed.
She pushed for as much as she could.
And while one could even say like all the comic book cutaways and the animation sequences were done to kind of keep the budget on low, it was still I love them. They're still in the spirit of the comic.
It tells you it's a comic.
Yeah. And I'm just really happy that in the long term, Rachel Talalay has done a lot of good work afterwards. In fact, for those who looked her up on IMDb. She has done a lot of incredible work on television. She's actually directed all the finales for the Capaldi era of Doctor Who, including
Those are some good ones.
yeah, some really good episodes. She did some episodes of Iron Fist, Sabrina, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. She's unstoppable. It just goes to show how incidental initial box office is, and even whatever negative press it gets in the long run, because inevitably movies like this will find their audience for one way or another.
It's fun to think is, Wizard of Oz. You think that's iconic film? We all know it. Yeah, when it came out, it didn't do well at all. It took 10 years later, and then when it was on television is when it became the icon it is. Just because it doesn't do well initially doesn't mean it, one, won't have a fan base later, two, not make its money back later, three, does not indicate quality.
No.
A movie can make $1 billion, can make $0. Does not affect how the film is. And even then, you can still love it, even if it's not a perfect film.
Yeah.
Anyone who thinks that all the movies they love are perfect or get out.
Yeah. Money comes, money goes, film is forever. The audiences that this movie was meant for watched it, were receptive to it, and inevitably prolonged it, just because it has a singular spirit all its own. And I will say to this very day, I can't think of another film like it. Actually, now that I actually think about it, I can't think of any other film that did the things that Tank Girl did, or even, I can't even think of another character like Tank Girl.
There was always an audience. It was the studios stuck in their archaic minds who didn't think there was, again, this is them being disconnected from reality. They're like, oh, well, Supergirl didn't do well. Okay, one, you wrote a shitty movie.
Yeah.
Two, you gave it no budget. And you were going to connect it to the Superman. But at this point, Superman was sucking too, by the way. So,
Yeah.
we were kind of already on a downhill. They didn't do well with it at all.
And unfortunately, this was the same mentality that carried over into freaking Catwoman, that carried over into freaking Elektra.
Wonder Woman, thank God, got good people behind it, and they let them do their thing. It's sad that all the movies before Wonder Woman have been sabotaged by studios. Like, just flat out, sabotaged by the studios. Never given a chance. At least Tank Girl, I'll give it. I think this is the only one that at least the people creating it put as much as they could into it to make the film. It is actually an entertaining film.
Yeah.
You cannot say the same about Supergirl. You cannot say the same about Catwoman. You cannot say the same about Elektra. But Tank Girl at least stands up to say, no, this movie's still fun. To be honest, you can tell when a female directs a superhero movie, there's a distinct, noticeable thing, and it does work for those films. You can tell when a guy is directing it when there's a woman. Just watch the difference between Wonder Woman and Justice League.
It doesn't hurt to ask for any kind of particular insight.
George Miller did, and look what happened with Mad Max Fury Road.
Thank you for picking up on that lead, because that's what George Miller did on Fury Road, is that
he talked to other people to make sure that he got things exactly right and correctly representing, and you're not going to say that movie isn't amazing, but he didn't do, the Michael Bay shit.
Yeah, he didn't do the having them straddling the war rig with shots like going...
with the sun reflecting off their butts or something.
That movie spent more time fetishizing the water that they were drinking the first time you saw the wives.
I can't blame him.
Which is exactly what you should do.
But anyway.
Yeah. But
hey, actually, come on. Tank Girl practically has a lot of
influences.
It's more of like a punk Mad Max. Like, Mad Max is dirty, dusty. Tank Girl's more like if they just had fun with it.
Yeah. It's like they embraced the chaos, and they just made this poster child for that chaos. I mean, the best thing about a character like Tank Girl is when it goes beyond, just the physical, when it's more about the kind of character that everyone just wants to be, and a character like her who is just loves being this absolute wrecking ball of madness.
But they also, it's one of those few post-apocalyptic movies that, they have the issue of, like, water and power taking all the water, and they got some issues to deal with, but they're not miserable. Everyone looks like they're taking care of themselves. They figured out how to live in this world.
So much effort on this film went to waste thanks to the studio, especially because of some of the people involved in it. Of course, one that we love, that everyone loves by obligation, is Stan Winston, who worked on the design of the Rippers. And Stan Winston himself he apparently he cost a lot because he's Stan frickin' Winston.
He had just done Jurassic Park.
He had just done Jurassic Park at this time, but he was so in love with the idea of the Rippers and seeing if he could pull off these human kangaroo hybrids, And now, apparently, in his creature shop, that's still, around this day, they still have the Rippers on display.
Yeah, they're like right next to like the Terminators.
Yeah. You look at the Rippers, they're so expressive. He was able to make them all have their own particular identity. Of course, one of them being Ice-T. I think this was among his first film roles. And
he is so Ice-T in this.
Very.
Well, and the funny thing is when he asked him about like the hell of the costumes, they were not comfortable. And he's like, it's better than prison.
The actor's named Jeff Kober, who played Booga.
No, he was sweet.
Yeah, I have a very low tolerance level for like stupid characters. I mean,
I hate man-children.
Man-children characters really drive me crazy unless I can believe that even in lieu of their lack of intelligence, I like it when you can still see that they are obviously able to function, they're obviously able to do things, and they still have a very sweet nature,
you can't be so stupid that you're like going to walk into a wall or something.
Yeah.
You can't be a jerk.
Exactly.
That's like 90% of Adam Sandler movies.
Oh yeah. Whereas you got Booga, who Booga is just insanely sweet and obviously very competent at his job at what he does.
He does his job really well.
But you totally get why Tank Girl just totally clicks with him and why she
super sweet.
Yeah.
He also doesn't push himself like he doesn't
like certain other horny rippers.
No question anyway. I say we kill him.
I say we hump him.
I say we get crumpets and tea.
Tasty. Crumpets and tea. All in favor of crumpets and tea, say aye.
Aye.
I mean, like, he doesn't get in your face or anything. He just kind of talks, and actually he makes a good point when they're trying to figure out if she's a spy or not. He's like, well, maybe she's doing that to make us think that she is, but that it's not. He's kind of talking in circles, but it is pointing out maybe it's not real, maybe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, shut up.
Yeah.
And he stops talking. So he does act, because he says he's the reincarnation of a dog that was considered smart enough to be a human. Which, that's funny.
I think this a good moment of endearment for me is like Tank Girl's trying to like nudge him, like saying, "Hey, we'll do something for you if you let us out." And he's like, "You got baseball cards?"
Yeah, he's more like I'd say he's childlike. He's not a man-child because he's also not a man.
Actually, you know what he reminds me of? He's kind of like the kangaroo version of Arthur from Cabin Pressure.
Arthur, you haven't managed any of these things on their own. What makes you think you can handle them together?
I can't eat eggs and flour and sugar on their own, but I can eat cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just... Yeah. He's super dense, but you understand why, and he's not malicious about it. However, unlike Arthur, he doesn't frustrate you. Like, Arthur, he sometimes wants to strangle. If you ever listen to Cabin Pressure.
Listen to Cabin Pressure, make it a point. Cumberbatch is in it. That's all you need.
But, Booga never makes you want to strangle him. Mm-hmm. He does his job really well. When they start doing the attacks, he's really good. Mm-hmm. Plus, also, some of the others are not the brightest stars in the sky either.
We're much better in the dark, like Count Chocula.
Dracula, fool.
Count Chocula's the guy in the laundry detergent box.
If I asked you something, I would.
No, he is. He's right. He's right. He's the guy in the center.
No, there was the one that was dry humping Naomi Watts, and
I don't know why she didn't just knee him in the crotch. It would have been funny. It would have been hilarious. She just stands there like awkwardly, like, "Are you done yet?"
I don't think since we're on the subject of Naomi Watts, we have to point something out. Yes, Naomi Watts is in this movie. This is like among her earliest film appearances, and apparently she was crazy young and very timid. Like, so you can only imagine how funny that is.
No, she looked timid in that scene.
Yeah, well, no, that was actually not, for the most part, not acting for her.
Well, I don't know when they...
But you can only imagine when she's reading the script and finding out that a lot of things she has to do, she has to be leered upon by the villains, and then, you're also going to be leered upon by kangaroo men at the same time.
At that point, you're just kind of like, whatever.
It's like, these are addendums.
Welcome to Hollywood.
These are sides to your bucket list you never thought you were ever going to write in there, like going...
Well, she apparently doesn't, because she tries to dismiss this film as like a mistake in her
come
career.
on.
And I'm like, back off. Jack Nicholson did, what is it, Pet Shop Horrors?
Jack Nicholson, Little Shop of Horrors.
You do some, was it, Sylvester Stallone did a freaking porn.
Yeah, freaking.
So whatever.
Yeah, Nicole. Yeah, and Sylvester Stallone has a sense of humor about the fact.
Yeah,
that
he laughs it off. It's like
he made the movie Rocky because he did porn.
Yeah.
Because it was meant to be a metaphor for it.
Oh, okay. You do what you gotta do. You take the roles you gotta take. And honestly, Tank Girl is considerably higher level than porn or some of these other schlocky films that you catch some actors and be happy that you got it.
I mean, it could be worse. It could be that Princess Diana biopic you did. Oh! So if you ever are watching this, Naomi Watts, revisit your early work and realize you actually...
I don't think she's watching this. I don't think she cares. Let's be real.
All we have are dreams, son. All we have are hopes.
All we have is a fucking virus.
Yeah! Rebecca, hit the brakes! Waterfall ahead! Shut up! You'll ruin the surprise!